Money Radio, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. It's time to talk real estate with Laura Bramnick from TalkRealEstateAZ.com. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Sinclair.
Laura, of course, is an attorney and a real estate agent, a great combination there, a twofer, if you will. In fact, you may be able to have legal representation for a real estate transaction at no additional cost in many circumstances. Laura is also a consumer advocate. She works in residential, commercial, and land transactions, and she can help put together a concrete plan. Laura holds an active Arizona real estate license. She's been an investor, a certified instructor with the Arizona Department of Real Estate. For more information, talkrealestateaz.com. That's the website. Talkrealestateaz.com. And Laura's phone is 480-624-2705. 480-624-2705. Laura, I know that you've dealt with the issue that I'd like to talk about today, HOAs.
HOAs.
There are actually quite a few HOAs in Arizona.
Yes, we have, if we don't have the most HOAs of any state, we're in the top few. You know, it's very, very common here. And when I have clients that move in from out of state, they really are unfamiliar. And a lot of times I'll let them know before you make an offer on a property, make sure you understand what the HOA can do and not do, and that particular HOA of the subdivision you're looking in, because they all operate a little differently, and some are much more aggressive than others.
So we need to understand the HOA when it comes to purchase, and is there anything we can do to change the offer if we are aware of an HOA?
Well, the first thing is you have an inspection period, and that's a 10-day inspection period. And the second thing is that you are entitled to receive a copy of the CC&Rs within 5 days. And that's the seller's responsibility, but it's usually done by the title company. And actually there's a new HOA form that went into effect, I believe, February 1st of this year, sometime in February, less than a month ago. And that is, instead of a one-page sheet, that's like a 3-page now, where the seller has to give a lot more information from the get-go, from the start. So if you can, my recommendation is that the contract be contingent on your review of the CC&Rs. Okay. And I would actually state that in the contract.
It's very important to understand those CC&Rs, and some homeowners associations can be quite particular, others are a little bit looser.
Yes, and so it's a good idea to talk to some of the neighbors and to do your own inquiry about that, because there may be some things that you really don't want to cooperate with. You know, you don't want to live in a neighborhood that is that picky. And the fines and fees can add up very quickly. I talked to someone yesterday. The HOA said initially he owed like $500, and 2 months later the fines and fees were up to $3,500.
Wow. So
and even though there are statutes on what the HOAs can and cannot do in Arizona, there's not that many statutes.
Are they regulated?
And not really. The regulation basically says that their fees have to be fair and reasonable.
That leaves a lot of...
yeah, what fair and reasonable is different among different people.
Right.
And the other thing is to remember that the HOA boards are voluntary. And a lot of the people who serve on the boards, some are knowledgeable, but some are not. They're volunteering their time, but the treasurer is not always a CPA. And so you really need to do your own due diligence, at least as it applies to you and what you owe.
So HOA can make assessments that can turn into a lien.
Yes.
Then it can become a foreclosure.
Yeah, I don't think many people realize that the HOA has the power to foreclose on your home. And that is a long involved process, but there are HOAs that will do that, especially because, let's say your home is worth a few $100,000 and you have some equity, and let's say you owe the HOA $5,000. Well, they're gonna get their money back, and they're gonna get all their fees covered by that equity. So, it's not unusual for an HOA to foreclose. Now, they cannot foreclose unless your payments are 1 year behind or you owe more than $1,200 exclusive of costs and fees. So you have to owe $1,200 in actual dues and assessments, or you have to be delinquent for a year.
If it gets to the point where there are assessments, there might be a conflict. What is the best thing for the homeowner to do to give them a fighting chance of winning a case?
First, don't ignore it. I have a lot of clients that come to me after they've ignored it and end up in court. Number two, keep really accurate records. Number three, I have a lot of complaints where homeowners say, I called and nobody called me back. Don't rely on the telephone, because you can't have an accurate record of that. Everything should be in writing, either hand-delivered or faxed or mailed, or a combination of the three. And get on top of it at the very first sign that they're alleging that you owe them money. And ask for an accounting in writing. Demand an accounting, and then cross-reference it with your own records.
In your experience, do the homeowners usually prevail, or do
No.
the HOAs?
The HOAs usually prevail. And a lot of it has to do with, you have to be able to, there's an assumption, I find, by the court that the HOA's records are accurate. And so as long as you have evidence in your favor, you can prevail. And if you prevail, there's a good chance that the HOA will have to pay your attorney. But of course, if they have to pay fees out of their budget, that really goes against you, because if enough people
Because you
do
pay
that,
the
because
fees
you pay the
individually.
fees, correct. So, but don't ignore it. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give.
We've been looking today at HOAs from the viewpoint of the homeowner. Next week, let's talk about HOAs from the viewpoint of the board of directors.
Yes.
If you have any questions about HOAs, no matter what viewpoint, if there is a conflict, one of the best things you can do is talk with someone who really understands the law. And that's Laura Bramnick. TalkRealEstateAZ.com, TalkRealEstateAZ.com, or call 480-624-2705. That's 480-624-2705 for Laura Bramnick, TalkRealEstateAZ.com. Laura, important information. Thank you.
Thank you.